You're live, man.
Yes. Yes, we are. Okay, so welcome everybody tonight. I'm Dustin Coiner from TrackDaz, and I'm here with Richard Stanboli from Monster Energy Attack Performance Yamaha Racing.
Yes, you finally got it.
I got it right.
Well, they took all season.
The whole season.
Like Greg White said, that's a stupid name.
That's a long name. That's a list of
stuff. I've heard longer names.
Yeah,
and they seem to be able to get those.
Yeah, there was
X-Star, Suzuki, M4, blah blah blah.
Limpy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So tough weekend for you guys, right? I mean, usually when we have this chat, it's after you guys have mopped the floor of everybody, and it's
it's not every weekend you come up with a championship. It was tough, boy. I tell you what.
Yeah. Even on your tough weekends, you still come home with a championship. That's
yeah. Well, it was the year was so easy, and it fell together so well that the odds were against us for sure.
Yeah.
Cameron had one crash all year, and he had three, boom, 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 all in a row. So he was less than motivated by the time he got to two wheels that could finish.
Yeah. And then, Jake, not to be outdone, like Jake had to toss one as well.
Yeah. He's like, what? You did 4? I only did 3. So he threw one down the road. I think actually Jake's at 5 now. And Cameron's at 4. But before then, Jake was at 3 or 4, including test 1, and Cameron was only at 1. So the guys were actually pretty easy on us compared to what you look at MotoGP, man. Those guys are tossing it almost every weekend.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you've seen one of the competitors in Superbike. Kyle Wyman's had probably one of the worst seasons.
And Bobby, obviously, he's had a lot of them and hurt his hand, and I think Corn Dog said, "Yeah, but your two guys together last weekend did more than Bobby did all season." I go, "Hold on, counselor. You're comparing one guy to two guys?"
Right.
I said, you better go back to your statistics class there.
Yeah. It was Common Core math.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Common Core.
Right. Yeah. So, Indianapolis, I mean, that's first time it's been on the MotoAmerica schedule, right? I mean, I think the last time you were there with the CRT bike, right? I can't remember if it was Steve Rapp or Blake Young, but
no, that's where we scored 2 championship points in MotoGP. Was with Steve Rapp. I think he had something to do with his age and some record, like the oldest guy to start a GP or I don't know. It was something crazy like that. And he scored 2 championship points. It was pretty.
Rappers get a punch in the balls for calling him old, right?
Yeah, dude. To score 2 MotoGP championship points was like winning a championship in MotoAmerica.
Oh, absolutely. I remember you guys were in the rain or something, right?
No, it was dry.
Oh, it was the year before. It was that's great.
Yeah. When I think it was what's his name, went flying through the air, the Australian kid.
Stoner,
went flying through the air in the wet. He grabbed a handful of throttle. Next thing you know, he was just flying.
Yeah.
The track was kind of strange for our bike. I think a lot of guys had maybe the same type of feeling. Cameron came in and said, "This is the first track we've been to where the bike's baseline doesn't really feel right." So we struggled a bit on the first day, and I think it was just a little bit foreign to him. And then we kind of got it together, and then he went out to put down that qualifying lap, and he went 36.6, I think it is, which was pretty freaking fast, almost a second faster than anybody. So I'm like, okay, here we go, back to normal. Then he tossed it on the queue, and that was kind of the beginning of the snowball effect.
Yeah, I mean, I was wondering, I was watching you guys kind of struggle with that, and it's super uncharacteristic to see him WOD bikes, right? And so I was like, instantly I'm writing notes like to ask you, what the fuck happened? Like, what about that racetrack what was it? I mean, was it those weird paint lines? Is it just because it's flat? Oh,
I think it's got something to do with the polymer they put in the asphalt. The track was faster when it was cold. That makes any sense. So when the temperature was like in the morning, you can go really good lap times. In the afternoon, when the temperature came up and the tires weren't greasy, the track wasn't that hot. It just didn't seem to have the speed at the end of the day. And I think it was a little bit, it didn't communicate the riders properly, maybe also because like Cameron was getting lean angles like in the mid 60s. And that is right at the edge where the Dunlops will actually work. Mm. So, he said a couple times, I think I'm rolling off the edge of the tires, like the thing with the tuck or with knife the front or something, because I think I'm riding over the edge of the tires. And so I think that those corners lent themselves to some pretty high lean angles. You'd work your way in and you just keep leaning over to hook the corner. And the riders didn't even realize because the track had some grip, but they would say like, oh, the grip is down on the front and rear, even though you were seeing some pretty good lean angles. So it was kind of a deceiving racetrack. I think that was probably the case. And also, I think the natural geometry of the Yamaha maybe didn't lend itself to those types of corners as well as, let's say, the Suzuki did. I think we would have had speed either way if the situation didn't go the way it did with crashing on the queue and then, crashing again twice in race one, crashing in somebody's oil, and then he did a kind of a low side, high side in race one. He did a high side, low side in race one, and the bike went up to the wall and, destroyed the whole motorcycle. So we had to build a whole new motorcycle overnight. And so maybe the new bike didn't quite feel right. He didn't feel right. All that stuff, like 3 crashes and boom, 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 just like that. And in somebody else's oil. And the bike destroyed, our 3rd place guy that we sponsor, Matt Schultz.
Yeah.
Our bike went around and hit him in the foot and just destroyed his foot and his knee. So all that, I think, weighed on, and the championship, all that stuff weighed on Cameron a little bit. So it slowed us down a little bit. I think I remember him telling me on Sunday that, hey, man, I think I'm just going to go and just feel it out a little bit and see how it goes. And then he rolled out for, I'm summarizing probably a little quickly because you're probably going to ask me some questions anyway, but you're talking about.
I'm letting you roll. So
we're talking about why we sucked, right? And getting on the podium, I guess, sucks, and winning a championship sucks. But either way, by our new standard where we win everything, we do suck. Yes.
That's tough, right?
Yeah. When you're at the top is the only one. But like I said, by the time we got to Sunday, when the bike hit the wall, it actually damaged the IMU, which is the device that every bike has that measures the lean angle, the acceleration, all these things which factor into the math that the ECU does on the back end to determine how it applies power, how it applies lack of power, like engine braking, reverse, and torque, and all that stuff. Every bike nowadays does it. It's all built on the back end, and it's kind of seamless, and you don't notice it until it actually comes on pretty hard. Like a stock bike in race conditions may be a little bit too aggressive with the TC and the anti-wheelie and all that stuff. But all modern bikes have this type of math and junk going on the back end. And so that thing got damaged. And then race 2, or actually in morning warm up, or FP3 or whatever they called it. No, FP3, I think we were pretty fast. I think it was a warm up on Sunday, right before race 2. He went out and came right back in and said, yeah, the bike's all screwed up, but it doesn't, it's like TC's coming on down the straightaway. It's engine braking is really strong. The anti-wheelie is weird. All that stuff is all messed up. And we're like, look at the data real quick. And, it's the IMU, but that's buried pretty deep in the bike. So we didn't have a chance to change it. So we parked it. So we put a different IMU in there, and guess what? It goes out for the race warm-up, and it's doing the exact same thing. So Paul and I hopped the wall. We're only allowed 2 guys due to COVID at the on the grid. So we had to do the handoff like wrestling. Our crew came back. Paul and I, the other electronics guy, we hopped the wall and started looking at it, pulled some data. I was like, oh, hey, the x-axis accelerometer is still messed up. So Paul devises a real quick single axis TC table and throws it in there. He goes, well, let's just learn the motorcycle in the first 5 laps and see what it does. Shit. So so that was his race 2. He just kind of tooled around and figured out how the bike was going to ride. And yeah, it was changing power mid-corner, and the anti-wheelie was working weird, and the TC was coming on too late, too strong, and and the deceleration was making the rear wheel lock up, and that was a perfectly good motorcycle ride.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like he was just mailing it in. Honestly, like I didn't.
Yeah, you know,
until the end of the race, he looked super aggressive, and it looked like he was going for it at the end.
Yeah.
Of race 2, but man, like all the way up until the last few laps, he looked like he was just mailing it in.
Yeah, so it took him probably, you know, like half the race to kind of figure out how the bike was reacting, when he could brake, when he could turn, when he could apply throttle, how much throttle he could apply, all that stuff he had to relearn, because he's been riding a certain motorcycle that reacted a certain way all year long, right?
Right.
So you can imagine it's like, hey man, you got this Ducati you got to ride now for this race, and you didn't practice on it. You know, so it was kind of like that for race 2, and you could see him getting better and better. He did a 37.1 towards the end of the race when he started kind of getting the feel for it. And then he's like, okay, I'm going to make a break for the leaders. And I think he passed Jake, and coming out of turn 4, the thing spooled up really bad and wheelied. You can probably see it in the video, and then it nearly high-sided him there. And then he just couldn't quite make it to those guys the last few laps, and he just took him a little too long to get there. And then after all that, you know, we went and changed all the wiring, all that stuff between the 2 races, and took all the electronics off another bike. So basically just went for the shotgun approach, just change everything. So the dash, the switches, the wiring, the IMU, the ECU, I mean, every electronic bit we could change. And rolled out. Bike is good. But he'd already learned how to ride that goofy ass Ducati, you know?
Right.
Now he was riding a Yamaha again, and so by race 3 came around, it was just so much drama. I think he just wanted to finish.
Just
can't
maybe
blame
wasn't
him.
worth.
Yeah,
The
new frame, new
was more important.
Yeah.
So, you know, going back to the race 1 thing, I mean, it just, you know, there was a couple of things that I saw that I thought were weird, and you know, one of them, I mean, right off the end of the first lap, Kyle Wyman crashes his Ducati, and I'm sitting there noticing that the leaders are almost made it all the way back around before they threw the red flag out. So I talked to Wyman, and I was like, "So what were you thinking?" And he said he thought that he was going to get a real close-up look at the race action, and the flag came out right at the, you know, right before those guys went through that corner. The red flag came out and everybody kind of slowed down. But I mean, he was over there kind of like, oh crap, like what's going on here?
Yeah, come to find out that MotoAmerica's communication with the track staff was less than ideal. Like they were communicating amongst themselves. And anyway, this is all secondhand info, but I think MotoAmerica and Wayne Rainey weren't super happy with how that went down. Right. I mean, the tracks, you know how it is. You crash at Willow Springs, even, you know, on WSMC weekend, and I can't remember the dude in the pickup truck that'd be smoking at the top of the hill. You know, as soon as you hit the ground and you looked up at the sky, he'd be leaning over you saying, "You all right?"
Yeah.
And that's a club race.
Yeah, pretty much.
The guy's laying out there, and the one dude's trying to put out his bike's fire with his foot after he oiled the whole track, and there's no communication. The guys don't look at the oily track, and it was a disaster for MotoAmerica.
I was wondering what the hell happened there. I mean, like the guy's bike is on fire, and it apparently was leaking oil, obviously.
Yeah.
Like, why didn't they stop and like have a look?
Well, what I heard was these guys are kind of used to car racing. It's been a while since they've been motorcycle on a track. And so all their corner positions, I think, were kind of in screwed up places. Needless to say, I think those corner workers, I don't know how old they were, but they're pretty out of shape, man. They couldn't even pick up, Tony Ilias's motorcycle, 3 of them. You know, I mean, it's like, are you kidding me?
Right.
You know, it was pretty embarrassing for those corner workers, I'd say. You know, they ran over to the bike, barely got they were all winded by the time they got to it. They pulled out the fire extinguisher, ran over the oil, you know, like ran past the oil to get to the motorcycle, let the guys keep on going, and then it ends up destroying 2 guys that we sponsor, you know, Cameron, our bike, and then Matt on his bike, and sends him, you know, finishes him off of the season, and off the hospital he goes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the very first time I've seen a Camaro used as a med transport.
Yeah, I read Skoltz's. I was kind of wondering what the heck's going on there, but apparently, the true story was that the Camaro was there with a doctor, and they called the wrong thing. They said medical instead of ambulance. The
Mm,
corner workers did, and so medical came over, meaning the doctor who was in that Camaro.
okay.
And Skoltz got up, and you know how it is when you get your bell rung and you get your adrenaline going, you want to jump up and run. And he was in no shape to do that. Realized he couldn't stand, so instead of him standing there, I think they limped him over to the Camaro so he could sit down.
Right.
Yeah, but I guess eventually they did bring the ambulance over and transport him with that. But they didn't try to put him inside the Camaro, even though it looked like that. I guess that's what I read in Skoltz's.
Well, they tried to put him inside it. I don't think because he's such a gigantical human being.
Yeah, he's
He had to take his helmet off to get in the car.
yeah. What's that, a Tyrannosaurus Rex or something?
Yeah, yeah. And
I think they were just,
I saw
yeah.
I saw Chiquetto posted up some like an X-ray photo, and he's got quite the erector set in his ankle.
Yeah, nothing like what Pridmore had, in
No.
Atlanta. That was like 22 broken pieces or something like that. It was 22 screws holding pieces together in 3 plates.
Right.
I mean, I think the bone was broken 8 ways on Pridmore's when he did that thing at Atlanta when he smashed his ankle. He tried to stand up on that too and realized real quick he couldn't stand up. But what happened was our bike spun around and hit Matt as he was spinning around, coming to a stop. He had pretty much come to a stop. And then, of course, Cameron crashes behind him in that same fluid. And the bike starts to just spin like a top.
Right.
And it came by like and just smashed him in the foot. Luckily, it didn't hit him in the head. And he hit it right like near the bottom side where the swing arm is and smashed our lower with his foot. So our lower looks like somebody just jumped on it. The rest of the bike actually looked pretty decent. One thing I got to say about that track, bikes crash really well there. The curbing is flat, and the grass is like landing on a pillow. I mean, our body was hardly scratched when I crashed, if you can imagine it. And we changed the lower, and away we went. It was really crazy.
So we've got this guy watching the live feed, and he commented. His name's online. It's Bearded Jixer. I guess he's got a giant beard or something.
Okay.
But he says that
Mike has a beard.
He noticed when Tony's bike went down on Sunday, the track crew sat there and basically watched the oil from the bike roll down the track.
Yeah, Tony, he's a little guy, and I've seen him pick up his bike. And those guys were trying to pick up the bike and they couldn't do it. And the oil's just leaking away and the gas and whatever else. It was nutty. I mean, I've never seen anything like that.
No, never. Not even at a club race, like you were saying.
No way. I mean, maybe a test day when we're out testing and there's no track crew. We're going to go up, pick up the bike ourselves. Usually even the riders pick them up at that point and ride them back in, or.
Right.
But it was nutty. I mean, I couldn't believe my eyes for a place that is so famous and so well staffed like Indy. I mean, the parking guys were like every 100 feet, you had a guy pointing to where you needed to park. And the staff was good and really friendly, but I just didn't. I was amazed by the corner working people. Nothing against them, but I think they just didn't work.
The corner workers and course control, that's the biggest thing I think of. I mean, you remember the story from a few years ago, right? Where, I mean, going back to just a club race for me, right? Like being left in the impact zone of the fastest corner of the racetrack, telling the corner workers that I had a broken back, and they're like, okay, cool, we'll give you a ride in the crash truck to the ambulance, right? Like I was kind of having flashbacks of that.
Yeah. That's not good. Yeah.
Not good.
Yeah. No, the whole time, what can you do though? It's like our bike, our rider got messed up, another rider got messed up, and our bike got smashed up, and because course control just didn't throw out the red flag or the debris flag or anything.
Right.
So there's I've seen it done though in AMA as well, where people crash on other people's oil way late. It happened to our bike way back when, and in 2002, I think, when we had Ben Spees riding our bike, same kind of thing happened. He crashed in oil when the debris flag wasn't out. So it happens.
So the race starts to get restarted, and you see Cameron jogging with his bike down the pit lane. What was that about?
Oh yeah, we were the very last pit down pit lane. That pit lane's really long, and it was just really weird. They called 3 minutes and they called 1 minute almost right away. And so giving the guy 1 minute to get his helmet and gloves on and then go up, the pit limiter down pit lane, he was short like 4 or 5 seconds, but they wouldn't let him get out. So he thought he had to push back all the way to the.
Oh, wow.
They said you have to start at the end of the grid. So he started, okay. So he started pushing the bike back to the end of the grid. I think they didn't tell him or communicate with him. No. You can start right here after the guys take off.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And then rejoin the group and then grid at the back. So that was a continuation of our day that day.
Yeah. I was just like, dude, I mean, I know he's fit and everything, but I mean, what the hell?
Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with the bike. So they're like, oh, we had a bike problem. No, they just stopped him literally a few seconds after the 1 minute ran out. In hindsight, I was thinking, man, he should have just turned off the pit limiter, just speeded down pit lane, and we just take the fine. We're not taking all that drama, but hindsight 2020.
Yeah. So then, what happened, and so third start of that race. I mean, he looked aggressive just like always. I mean, it looked like he was going to go and kick butt, right? And what did you have any indication data-wise or something that caused that crash, or because it looked weird?
Yeah, he gave it. That was the last little right left before the straightaway, and he'd gotten out and kind of getting into his rhythm. Yeah, I don't think he had his rhythm yet. I think he was a little nervous that weekend. Even for a pro rider like him, he gets a little nervous, and we gave him like a plus. I think it was almost a 1, like a 0.8. And the next lap was a 0.5. So I think he was like, okay, my tires are ready to go. And he wanted to bust out like a qualifying style that lap.
Right.
And kind of get a gap and break whoever was behind him. I think it was Bobby maybe. And so he made that left, that right. And then he tossed it left and the back end came around and high-sided him. And so he just gave it just maybe a tick more squirt and he was offline, but it's just like a couple feet, according to the GPS data. And no big deal. It just, like I said, the track, I think, has some tricky grip, that we just didn't have our head around the first couple days until later, I think hence the real snappy low sides too.
Yeah.
Like no warning type stuff,
So, looking at the crash on the broadcast, on Live Plus, MotoAmerica's Live Plus thing, watching that bike just smash against the wall, it's like, oh, so Greg White kind of put it, I guess he had talked to you and you said, oh yeah, it was a simple fix. We just replaced the frame and the forks.
Yeah, the front wheel, the forks, and the frame. Yeah, they all got it, triple clamps. Everything else is all right. The engine was okay. But obviously the electronics weren't, because that ended up biting us the next day.
Right.
Yeah, something we couldn't see while it was in the pits.
Huh. Yeah, that's, it's just the way Greg White put it when he talked to you is just like, you're like, oh yeah, it's no big deal. We just replaced everything. It's like,
well, that's what we're there for.
Yeah.
We're a race crew. We don't just pour gas.
So, I'm going to take that and go into one of the questions. Matt Testa, I think, asked it. He's like, besides the one bike rule, are there any other rules or regulations that Richard would like to see different or changed?
I think if we're more in line with World Superbike, that might be a little better. But it'd probably be a little bit more expensive. It'd like to have a transmission rule in World Superbike. And so they can use one additional gearbox ratio. And which was my question about that Ducati that came here from World Superbike, the development Ducati. In World Superbike, they can use a like I said, alternate ratio. And for a track like that, you could use a taller first. Let's say you pick your alternate ratios and one of the tracks it requires a tall first. You can use that alternate ratio or the standard ratio. So you can use the standard ratio at all these tracks and the alternate ratio at another track. And so for that track, if you had a taller first, you could maybe eliminate some shifts in some of the small corners, like turn 1-2 area, turn not 8, 9, not 7, 8, 9, but maybe the next one, 10, 11 area, or the ones after that, you might be able to go through there in first because the corners are fairly slow, and not have to use first, second type combo. And I think that would help us a little bit. But other than that, I mean, the rules are pretty decent, you know. I think that that was a true testament of the ability to work between series. Like, for instance, that World Superbike Ducati showing up, they're able to basically ship that thing over here and put a standard transmission in it and run it. Now, I don't know whether they did put a standard transmission in or not. Probably something MotoAmerica probably should have checked, but I understand the politics behind it. You know, they want the Ducati here. They want the Ducati in the series. They're probably not going to go crack it open first time it's here, take a win away if they did something by mistake, you know.
I think it was good to see the Ducati up there, you know, and what do you think of that, the rider, the Zanetti guy? Like,
yeah, he's okay. You know, I think the bike's pretty fast. You know, our trap speed was just a tick faster than theirs. I think I was just checking the GPS speeds on the thing. I think our best over the weekend was 196.
196.
Yeah. The trap speeds MotoAmerica had was like 193.8 or something like that. So, but the GPS speed is at the very end of the straightaway run, right before it chops throttle.
Right.
So, yeah, 196. I think if we do some engine development next year, maybe we'll see 200, another 4 miles an hour. You know, so I was pretty happy with the development of the bike. You know, even though we're just using basically kit parts that anybody can buy, you know, we spent a lot of time on different aspects of the cylinder head and making sure the engine had its full potential. And yeah, so we're pretty happy with that. And I think it was right there par with the Ducati. So no, I welcome the more competition shows up, the better for us. It makes us work a little harder. You know, the competition goes up, everybody else gets better. You know, yeah, it was good to see that the Suzukis were going a lot better. I mean,
yeah.
You know, the Ulrichs have been pounding their head against the wall with that thing all season. And I saw Chris and I said, it's about effing time you guys got your shit together. You know, that's what I told them.
Man,
I think I said that to John also.
It was good to see a healthy Bobby. You know, I mean, that guy has been basically, you know, with a broken wing all year.
Yeah.
So to see him out there scrapping for the win and getting a couple of wins, I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, taking Cam out of the equation kind of, for whether it was, you know, us or him or whatever the case may be, kind of made a pretty decent race out of the weekend, right?
Yeah.
Like it was a strange weekend for us, but probably fairly fun to watch for everyone.
Well, I mean, even Jake, you know, I mean, we spent a lot of time talking about Cameron, but yeah. Jake that dude just keeps on getting closer and closer. He keeps chipping away. And I mean, you know, he looked like he had a shot to win race one. It looked like he had a shot, you know,
every race.
Basically, he was there every race, right? Until,
if you want to look at it over the long haul, right? Jake's in second place with a 30-point advantage. If Cameron wasn't in the series at all, he just scratched Cameron off, guess who'd be a championship leader right now?
Right.
With a 30-point advantage going to Laguna.
Correct.
That means he could give up a whole nother race and still win the championship.
Right.
You know, so that's the way I see it. I mean, Jake, that's his first year on our bike, you know, and even though it's Cameron's first year on our bike, it's basically an evolution of what he's already ridden. But for Jake, it's been jumping from one bike to the other for the last few years. So him getting his feel for the motorcycle, and also he's got some idiosyncrasies that we'll keep working on. Like one of them, we finally found the reason why he burns up clutches on the start, and we fixed that. It was
what was that?
He uses 2 fingers to launch a motorcycle, and so he never gets a clutch pulled back because he's got his other 3 fingers in the way. I basically told him I have 2 options. I could cut all your fingers off, or like your last 3, or you could use all 4 to launch a motorcycle. And that way we could actually have a clutch at the end. And so that was it. And 3, I mean, it's good that we kind of realized what he was doing, because that race had 3 starts with no time to change a clutch.
Right.
You know, he could barely get 1 start done and finish a race before. You know, so you can imagine if he had 3 starts, he'd have been done. So he learned quick, though, once he realized what he was doing. And sometimes riders are just so second nature that they think that, oh, yeah, I'm pulling the clutch all the way back. Are you sure you're pulling the clutch all the way back? Yes, I'm pulling the clutch all the way back. And what happens is if you don't have that clutch all the way back and you have that thing against the start limiter, I think we talked this before, it builds up a bunch of friction and starts pulling away some of the material. And with the Suter clutches, you have only so much material you can take off before it goes into full slip mode, even when you're driving forward. Yeah. So on a stock clutch, you probably wouldn't have the same issues. I know you wouldn't. You could probably kill a clutch pretty good on a stock clutch. But on a Suter or a race clutch, you only have a little bit of room, and then you got to get in there and adjust it. And so, yeah. So that was the case with him, and that won't happen again. Won't be any more DNFs on, or bad finishes based on clutches.
So, you know, using that as a segue for a fan's question, I actually have a guy asked a question about the Suter clutch.
Yeah.
His name's Joe Sviam. I think that's how you would say his name. Sorry, dude, if I got it wrong. He says that he said, let's see, where did it go? He said, for technical questions, ask Richard about the inner workings of the Suter clutches. He said he helped one install this past weekend, and it looks like a clock inside compared to the stock R6 clutch. He's like, makes sense being a Swiss-made thing. So
I guess if you haven't really worked on one, you know, to me, it's way better than the STM. The STM was definitely convoluted compared to the Suter. The Suter is I mean, it has a diaphragm spring on the inside, and that's the back torque limiting spring. So that's the one you adjust how much back torque you want. And then they have the drive spring on the outside. And it's got some ball bearings instead of ramps. It's a fairly simple device, actually, really simple. It was actually designed by a racer, Eskil Suter, you know, and nice guy. Came by the shop early in the year before the COVID thing, him and his chief engineer, and yeah, talked to him a bit. And yeah, he probably scratched that thing off on a napkin one day, you know. It's actually a pretty decent clutch, and they got a lot of, the best thing about it is they have a lot of pieces for adjustment. And a lot of people have copied that particular design. I'm sure it's a variation of some works piece, you know. And but yeah, no, it's once you get in it, you know, kind of understand it, take it apart a few times. It's not really a Swiss watch. It's just another piece of equipment.
I mean, I installed one on my 450 pretty easy, right? Like,
yeah, is that the one you got wrong?
You guys made fun of me.
Is that the one you got wrong? Wouldn't go forward?
No, that was the stock clutch on the 2-up sled.
See, so that answers your question. It's actually easier for you to install than a stock clutch because you obviously couldn't do a stock clutch.
Right. Yeah, because it's easier to just make you do it.
That's right, Joseph.
Yeah, well, he's got a broken.
Of course, we had to laugh at you after we took it apart.
Oh, of course, while pointing at me.
Yeah, while pointing at you. That's right.
Yeah, I don't think I'll ever live that down.
Yeah.
Oh, and Joseph says his last name is Sven. I'm like, oh, okay.
Sven.
Yeah, Sven. I was like, what? Okay.
Not the same Sven we know.
No, it's not. No.
So he's got a last name of Sven, and we have a guy whose first name is Sven.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and your Sven wears funky T-shirts with like bears riding bicycles.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right.
What can I say?
Yeah, so let's see here. Back to the races. Yeah, so race 3, man, Tony crashes, but Jake, again, you know, I mean, he stood up the Zanetti dude, and like he was super racy.
Yeah.
He stands that guy up and he's like, my bad. Just a heads up coming through.
Sorry. Yeah, I saw that. Sorry. He's really a nice guy, Jake is.
Oh, he is.
Yeah.
But I mean, he was
I get along with him great.
Really aggressive.
Yeah, on the racetrack, he's super aggressive.
Oh, I love it. It's so exciting to watch. Excuse me, coming through.
Yeah.
And, it looked to me like he was going to run down Bobby. I mean, just like he was taking a couple of tenths out of him, and then he just
Tuck the front.
Yeah.
There's that elusive grip.
Yeah.
Kind of had during the weekend. I mean, you saw that with a lot of guys. Here you are, and there you go. And it was strange. I think I have some ideas about when we go back and what to do with the motorcycles to make them, give them a little more feel on the front, let's say, so they can push a little harder. But like I said, the lean angles were so high there, at least what I saw on the data, and it kept growing. Like it would grow towards the middle and end of the corner. So it was confidence building grip, but it wasn't real. So it's hard to explain what the situation with that was. But yeah, he just went over that. He was catching him a couple tenths a lap. I think he made a run for him maybe a little bit too late.
Yeah.
I think in both races where he was making a run for him, he went after it maybe a little bit too late. Like race 1, he missed by 2 tenths.
Right.
If he would just gone a little earlier, he would have got him, and the Suzuki couldn't draft us. So I think he would have been fine at the line. He just barely missed him.
Yeah, and then obviously Cam was on his championship touring ride.
Yeah, he was waving at the fans before the finish. It's like, yeah, I'm leaned over here. I'm leaned over there. I got this in the back.
Man.
I asked Aaron, I said, how did it look out there? Good job riding that BMW, because, we have a relationship in the past there. And he's like, man, he goes, I could tell Cameron wasn't really trying that hard. I think, the other thing too was we gave him basically a whole new electronics package for race 3, because we've changed all the harness and all that stuff and put the program back in it. But he hadn't ridden it now since FP3, right? Since that race where he crashed. And actually since race 1, he hadn't ridden that package. And we still made a couple adjustments. We were going to try in morning warm-up, and he didn't get a chance to feel them. So he had to go out again and kind of figure it out and see how it shook out. That's the one bad thing about, and I tell riders this, is if you crash the bike a bunch of times, the team spends a lot of time fixing motorcycles instead of making them go forward, and analyzing data. You're always trying to see what happened in the crash, analyzing crash data and trying to figure out what got damaged on the bike so you can fix it.
Well, you know what? Let's use that segue to talk about your discovery in the electronics.
Oh, you want to see that?
Yeah, let's take a look at it. Let's take a look at what ugly electronics look like.
Yeah, so I'll explain it first. Maybe I'll show you some data. You got to remember to let me share the screen, though.
I've already let you share the screen.
Okay, last time you didn't, and I had
Dude,
to tell
you're such a demander.
Something like that, maybe. But anyway, so what there's in the IMUs, there's 3 accelerometers normally, and there's three gyros, and they do a bunch of math inside there along with the speed of the motorcycle. It's called a Kalman filter. What are you drinking, a Corona there or what?
No.
Look, I said when you get off the wagon.
I don't drink alcohol, man.
I know you don't.
That's a bad idea.
This is all vodka. Just looks like.
Oh,
water.
I bet that's all vodka. Yeah.
But anyway, so there's 3 accelerometers and 3 gyros, and that along with the bike speed, it goes through this math process. They call it a Kalman filter, and then they're able to estimate lean angle and a bunch of other stuff. So then they could take the x-axis accelerometer and also use it along with the gyros to figure out how much the bike is pitching backwards or forward. And that helps with how the electronics are applied for engine deceleration and also wheelie control. So if that thing goes bad, it starts throwing out erroneous data, basically it starts picking up items off of weird parts of the tables that we program. So there's a table that says for this amount of acceleration, add this much traction control and this lean angle. And for this amount of deceleration, add this much engine braking. So if you screw that all up, then the bike is doing weird stuff. Like Cameron says, like, hey man, the engine braking is all weird and the TC's on down the straightaway and off in the middle of the corner. And so that's exactly what he had. So go ahead and let me see if I can get to sharing the screen here. Close all this stuff down. So share screen. That one. Okay, you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so disregard all this stuff. That's just all mumbo jumbo. From that's rider throttle and different things, RPM, this and that. So let me align these things a little better. So what you have here, look at the bottom 3 sections here.
Okay.
So the blue one, you probably too hard for you to see. The red one actually is a 36.6, which I think was the fastest lap of that weekend. He did in Super Pole before the qualifying tire. He did that on a race tire and he crashed on the qualifying tire. I think it would have been a high 35 or very low 36. But so if you look at this particular curve down here,
yes,
so that's the x-axis acceleration for, see how I highlighted for engine braking, and then below is x-axis acceleration for TC, and it uses these numbers, the red numbers, to determine how it applies the different strategies, right? So if you look at the blue, that's what he had in race 2. So when the bike is accelerating,
oh wow,
you see that the red was like 7 meters a second squared. It thought it was going minus 10 meters a second squared. So it thought that the bike was slowing down.
Yeah.
So so you can understand that. And so it didn't know what part of the table to apply, or went to some weird part of the table and applied that. So it made the bike, like I said, all the rider aids were not only off, but they were acting in the wrong direction. So it was like BSB, but with somebody had an anchor that was bouncing around behind you, you know? And then over here, if I highlight this guy, that's your estimated pitch. So again, red being a good trace where the bike's decelerating. You kind of see it over here. It's that one is actually accelerating coming out of turn 9. You can see that.
Right.
The bike's pitch is going up, right?
Yes.
Where it's going in. Let me rephrase that. So yeah, you can see where the pitch is 6.9, like headed towards the negative. Well, it thought the bike was actually slowing down. So the wheel control was being affected by that. So all those things made it a really screwy motorcycle ride. I don't know, it's hard to explain, but it's something, again, there's a set of tables that it pulls off of to utilize that information that it gathers. So yeah, so basically the bike was all screwed up, and he was able to ride through it and get a whatever, he finished 3rd or something in that race.
Yeah, race 2. Yeah, you got 3rd.
He finished, right?
Yep.
Race 2, and then 3rd in race 3. Yeah, so he was able to ride a motorcycle. I think one of the MotoAmerica guys, they let me stop sharing this.
Okay.
One of the MotoAmerica guys texted me and said, "Did Cam ride without TC?" I said, well, it was some flat table of TC that disregarded the sensor. And so it was some screwy effect. But yeah, the bikes are pretty hard to ride nowadays without all that help. You know, I know they do it in BSB, but they spend, like I said, they spend a lot of time with working on the on how the engines deliver power with camshafts and, you know, velocity stacks and ignition timing and all those things at the shop before they can get out to the racetrack. It's much easier just to dial it in with a keyboard. So
let's go for some more fan questions, I guess. Unless you want to talk about how great the barbecue is in Indy.
The food's the worst place I've ever eaten. The barbecue at Alabama is way better in Birmingham.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, everything around the track is just horrible. We went to Buffalo Wild Wings. I've never seen anything like it. That was a third world country. Actually, you know what? Third world countries have better food.
No way.
Yes, for sure. You know,
Oh,
you go
man.
downtown, it's okay, but then it was like the night crowd got out there, and it was like big old long lines to go anywhere, you know. But and everything around the track was basically a desert to me.
Wow, yeah, I got nothing for that, dude.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that's
Bring your own food.
say that again.
I said, bring your own food.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. So how about this? One of my TrackDaz crew guys, we were having a chat on our TrackDaz staff page. His name's Dave Martin, Teaspoon. I guess he's been reading up on all these Reddit threads, and he sent me he posted up a link to this German article about rumors of Cameron going to Moto2 next year. Care to talk about that?
I read the same article.
I emailed it to you, so yeah.
I think a bunch of people emailed it to me, including the boys at Yamaha.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess they're figuring it out. I mean, it's some Moto2 team made Cameron an offer that might be a pretty decent one. So, you know, we'll see how it shakes out, if that thing goes through or not. You know, the Speed Week, which is that online magazine that had that, a German magazine, it's fairly reliable source, you know. Remember we were talking to Melandri and last year, and they had that thing up there before we hardly even finished a phone call with them.
Yeah.
So it was so you can see that thing is fairly realistic. You know, if it does happen, then that's great. That's Yamaha's call and Cameron's call, and I really hope that he does really, really well there if it does go down. And I think he can. I think he can do really well. He's probably to change up his riding style a little bit. That was one of the things we talked about too at Indy. Was he sits on top of the motorcycle, so it's real easy to get the tires to the edge of their grip. You know, in this series before, you didn't have to lean the motorcycle so much, because the bikes just didn't work that well leaned over. But now the bikes are getting better and better and better, and they're leaning for street bikes. They're leaning over pretty far, and so I think it's come time where the riding style has to be like Zanetti and Heron and Fong, where you kind of hang off the motorcycle. And Cameron's, I think, one of the last guys, kind of like Rhea, and I think Jonathan Rhea is trying to figure out that he's going to have to start changing his riding style a bit too. You know, you can't keep running up front with old school Hayes style riding style, right? You know, all that stuff works back in the day, and it was really fast, and it's efficient, and it saves a lot of energy, and the bike changes direction real well and all that. But come mid corner, when you're in the 65-degree zone, you know, you got to start getting that bike off the edge of the tire. The only way to do that is hang off it. And I mean, I don't recommend it for your track day guy who's running around at 45 degrees and he's hanging off like Marquez. You know, the bike's vertical.
30 feet offline too.
Yeah, exactly. They got the elbow down. Their fingertips are holding the throttle, so they get their elbow down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's not for every rider, but
Tweezer Grip is what they call it.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Yeah, looks fun for the photos, but it isn't really fast. But yeah, so a track like that, I think, would benefit from that type of riding style. And I think if Cameron was to go there, that's just my opinion, he'll have to work on some of that with a rider coach or something, you know. But I think it would be a good opportunity for him, you know. I wouldn't be upset at all. I'd like to see him, you know, grow. I mean, 5 championships. What are you going to do after that?
6,
10, 14? You know, and if he went, I'm pretty sure he could always come back to MotoAmerica when he's 30 something, you know, and a world champion of some sort or not. You know, I don't think it'd be very difficult.
So if those rumors are indeed true, what? Oh, I guess my dog is joining us.
Okay.
Yeah. So if those rumors are true, like who is there out there that's going to take the spot?
I have no freaking idea.
You know, I mean,
first you have to get past the rumors being true and all that stuff happening.
Yes.
You know, and then after that, you start deciding. I'm sure Yamaha will get 100 resumes.
Oh yeah, they're probably already getting them. This is the article got posted.
Every World Superbike guy, every World Superbike guy that doesn't have a seat, every BSB guy that doesn't have a seat, and every ex-MotoGP guy that's been sitting on their couch watching TV. I mean, they'll all be out there. Hey man, I could ride your motorcycle.
So there's a seat open right now for that Westby bike, right? For Laguna.
Yeah, actually they went and got a test rider from Yamaha.
Okay.
Yeah, so since we sponsor the team, I'm kind of privy to what they're doing. They're gonna make an announcement, I think, on Friday. But
okay.
It's an Italian guy.
Oh.
And I can tell you his name starts with a C and ends with an A.
Okay. Well, there you have it. That's probably
tell you which country he's from and 2 letters of his name.
Yes, and he's available, and he's a Yamaha test rider. Right?
Other than that, I can't tell you a damn thing.
Yeah, there's that bearded Gixxer guy saying Cam Peterson, and then Quentin Dixon saying put me in.
Of course, send your resumes to Yamaha. Well, we gotta get past the rumors first.
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
of course.
You know how this stuff goes. Nobody wants to go out and say what they're doing, so they don't want to ruin the deal they have.
Right.
Or potentially have.
Right. Okay, so Steven Eisenhower wants to know why you haven't started a school to teach people how to use the software and data. He says he thinks the main problem is that the time it takes to learn this stuff is hurting the other teams because they're all not as smart as you. And, you're way ahead of everyone else in the technology from what he's seen, and there's no place that teaches this.
There are places that teach. There are places that teach this. They're just real schools in Europe and places like that where they have race. They actually have racing universities. You know, that you can graduate from. You can go and you can learn it. And they'll teach you data for cars and all kinds of stuff. Or you can go to Motec teaches classes. Morelli doesn't really have classes because that seems to be a step above the average consumer deal. Like Morelli's a gigantic company. It's gigantic. I mean, they make little motors for Formula One cars, you know, so their technology is really high. So, but where you can, all the stuff's basically the same. They might call it something different. I mean, they might call it X-axis Excel versus, you know, acceleration X-axis in Motec. You know, they might have some different term for it, but it's all the same stuff. And so Motec has classes actually, and I've actually suggested to MotoAmerica, I think it was Scott Smart, since he was kind of directing the tech part of it, and still was involved. I say, hey man, I'm willing to teach other teams even about some of this stuff. It's for sure some of the Yamaha teams I've been helping a little bit. Like I think one of Frederico's guys, Sam Frederico's guys, came over with their laptops. Hey man, can you help us with this a little bit? And he was all switched on with the Motec, you know, and I kind of try to help him through. I said, hey, I think you're missing this, this, and this right here. And so I think that that is coming. The people in the paddock, as they allow more of this stuff, or are learning it. Just like, you know, guys have to learn fuel injection from carburetors. You know, that happened. People know how to tune their motorcycles for the most part in the paddock. If they don't, they'll take it someplace that does. But there is always some guy on the team that's kind of a geek, you know, that likes motorcycles that will learn this stuff and will get smarter at it as they apply it. You know, Westby's got Herschel and Wyman's got Darren. You know, so every team's got a guy or two. So they're actually really smart guys. Like Herschel was Matt Mladen's data guy.
Right.
So from a number of years, and then he worked at Yoshimura as well. And you know, the Suzuki guys have a guy, Rhett, I think, and so everyone's got a little bit of somebody in there. So I wouldn't say we have such a great advantage in that department. I think that maybe I just work a little harder, or I work hard to make sure that that this stuff is working properly. In all honesty, I mean, when you have a rider like Cameron, it's basically like cheating. You know, whatever you do you can see it on the clock. Whereas some other riders, you'll put something in there and go, it's kind of okay. I don't know. I'm not sure. With him, it's well, you see it right there. Oh, there's 2/10. You know, so I think that's the marriage between the technology and the rider. I think is super important, not necessarily just the technology.
Right. So we also have our weekly question from Duffy Gaver.
Oh yeah, the ex-heel guy.
Yeah, you know his question,
Josh
right?
Heron on the bike.
Yeah.
Still waiting for his hazardous duty pay. Has he saved that up? Send it our way.
Oh, I'm sure he's got a story for that. But yeah,
Yeah.
I have to ask it because I'm like Anchorman over here. I'll ask anything, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Sherwick Min has a couple of questions actually. Sherwick, I don't know if you know who he is. He's like one of those dudes that races the Aprilia. He says Team Westby is both supported by you as well as a direct competitor. Has Chuck ever asked you to share the Morelli data from Cameron or Jake with his team? Even GPS speed traces or anything?
I think last year they talked about that a little. Herschel did, but I drew the line at there's tech advice and then there's competitive knowledge, right? So
Right.
I've told, and so we have kind of agreement, like don't ask me for the fuel map and don't ask me for the TC settings and don't ask me for those kinds of things, but I'll gladly help you with things that you get stuck on. Like for instance, they had a start issue where the bike couldn't take throttle for the first 15 or 20 seconds. And it was an annoying little thing, right? But we had fixed it on our bike, and I gladly gave them the table that we use. Here, plug this in, and boom, their bike starts up and idles and takes throttle fine. And so those kinds of things we'll help them with. But when it comes to shock settings and chassis settings and things like that, they got to do that on their own because we're competing, right?
Right.
Yeah. So we give them the tools. We help them with the tools, give them some tech advice on the tools, but even say, oh, look at this area. This area might be an area where you might want to. But all honesty, I mean, there is some friendly competition going on, and they have some pride. They're not just going to come over and say, I mean, Chuck, he has no pride. He'll come over and say, hey man, give me your laptop. Let me go pick it up. But Ed and Herschel,
They're probably watching this right now too. I'm waiting for them to talk smack right now.
I don't care. But he'll come over and say, hey man, give me that. But Ed and Herschel, I think they want to get it done on their own. I think they have some pride in that. So
Right.
do I. I never go over and ask people for settings. I never did that with Yamaha when they were our competitor as well, even though they gave us motorcycles and parts, and we beat them at certain times and we raced against each other. But I wouldn't go over there and say, help me, give me all your data. That wouldn't happen.
Sherwick says his question about data, bike setup data, which is it wasn't about bike setup data, which is highly individual and may not transfer from rider to rider. He said it was more about sharing what Cameron is doing on the bike in terms of technique. I don't know. The first makes sense and makes Yamaha look good, but sharing the second seems like giving away secrets. If you share,
which is the second part, sharing Cameron's information on his riding information.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, that's pretty personalized too. Like it isn't necessarily that. I mean, we can show Jake what Cameron's doing, but Jake's still going to do stuff. And we do show Jake what Cameron's doing, and we do show him some overlays, like open throttle here, close the throttle there, kind of stuff. But it's still fairly individual. Jake hangs off the bike different. He rides the bike different. He steers the bike different. So he applies the throttle different. He sits on different parts of the seat, which changes the balance of the bike. So all that stuff is different. It's still pretty individualized, even down to the engine braking. If someone takes a little bit different line, they may want a little more or less engine braking. Cameron may want to, keep a rhythm through some S section, where Jake may want it to slow down between each throw, so you can get the back end to kind of squirt a little bit, from end to end. So all that's still pretty individual. That's why you see even in MotoGP, you have two teams within a team, and sometimes the other guy can't ride. Like say Brattle can't ride Marquez's setup. No matter what. And it was just like a few guys are like that in the Honda, under the Honda tent, that they can't ride Marquez's setup. So it's still fairly individual at the end of the day. I mean, they're riding their own machine.
Okay, so Michael Hannes wants to know if you think you could build 4 Moto 2 chassis that can win on less budget than it costs to buy a Kalex. And if so, how do you think Cameron would do on one?
That's a good question. I don't have an answer to that because it takes a little bit of development to get that right.
Yeah.
You know, it isn't like you could just, oh yeah, this is a good drawing here. Just let's make that frame and let's go out and get this done. I think for a guy like Cameron to go out and compete in that series, that's a world championship. That's the best of the best. At least
Right.
that's one step below MotoGP. And those guys are riding their brains out. So for him to go out and compete, if I was a rider, I would want to be on a proven machine. Now,
Right.
if I was going to go out and build something like that, I would probably get a Kalex, build our own, let them ride one or the other and say, okay, which one do you like better? Why? You know, a lot of manufacturers do that. We wouldn't be a direct copy of them. We'd want to make something better. Kind of did that with, we had borrowed a swing arm from the World Superbike team. And, you know, they've developed that around a Pirelli tire. And we went out and tested it and found some strengths in it, found some weaknesses in it. And then, you know, we upped our design based on some of the stuff we learned off of their swing arm. You know, so we came up with something that suited the Dunlop maybe a tick better than the World Superbike arm did. And that's what we're riding on now. So that's kind of the same thing. You know, you have some ideas in your head, which can translate to motorcycle, but you kind of want to, you know, quantify that. You know, you test it against something, or to go to the actual races and test your motorcycle. I think it's a little bit of a recipe for disaster.
Right. So Michael also wants to know. He says, "Oh, and how much do we need to go fund for him to go World Superbike wild card somewhere next year with Cameron?"
Oh, that'd be pretty cool if he stays here. Yeah, that was one of the talks we already had. I mean, I would love to do a World Superbike wild card with Cameron.
What he's saying is, like, how much money do we need to come up with for that?
For a World Superbike wild card? Depends on what country. You have to crate up the bikes and ship them. I mean, there's, I don't know, 20 grand right there, and just shipping stuff back and forth and all that, and then plus the tires. Heck, how much did the tires cost last year with the Pirellis?
I don't know.
I think at Laguna. I think it was like,
I have a spreadsheet from last year somewhere.
For the weekend, I can't remember what it was. $12,000 maybe, something like that. No, it wasn't that much. It was enough money. Plus you got crew and then you got hotels and you got airplane tickets and crash spares and prepping motorcycles. I don't know. That might be about a $100 grand venture, something like that. By the time you're all said and done, you got it somewhere. Write a check.
Yeah.
If you do it all up, you think about the shipping, the bikes, the service, the motorcycles, sending the crew back and forth. You know, what was it cost? Depends on what track. $800 ticket round trip, $1,000 ticket round trip.
Right.
Irish crew is $5-6 grand there. Hotels, maybe be less. Maybe you can get into the 60 range if you already have bikes that are built. If you smash something up, you could easily tear up another 10 or 20 grand.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So Mike Castro, Fuzzy, says, how come you don't like tattoos?
Let's go back to our original reason why we have the show.
Yeah, hey, Mike's a crew guy.
You know what? Maybe it was when I was a kid and you used to have those National Geographic magazines and you'd always pop one open. You know, this is when I was like 8, and there would always be some weird tribe in some unknown part of Africa or something, and they had a plate in their mouth and tattoos all over their face and big ear hoops, and it just didn't turn me on. I think it stayed that way.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I see Mike Castro, I think of that.
Okay. You want to know what tribe he's in?
Magazine.
You want to know what tribe he's in?
Yeah, which tribe are you in?
Yeah.
So maybe that's it. Maybe for some people, you know, they didn't get that subscription.
Wow.
He asked.
Yes, yes, he did. Okay, Dean Dufresne, he says, I guess the ridge track was new also, but does Indy present certain circumstances that made it a closer field? Like, was there characteristics of the track that helped lend towards closer racing?
I think so. I think the slow corners. If you see how everyone's stretched out down the straightaway, even though it was only covered by, a few tenths of a second, the gap would be pretty big. You're like, oh, okay, they're gonna get all spread out. But the corners were so slow that I think that most riders were able to kind of get it, and the corners aren't super difficult. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so the guys would stack up in the corner, so it was easy once you had caught wind of someone in front of you to kind of follow them around. And I think it was an easy track to follow, but a hard track to lead at. So I think Bobby Fong did a good job leading in the last race. He kind of put his head down and tried to split, and he kind of did a good job at that. Jake was catching him, but said a little too late, and he fell over. But I think that's the reason why. And then you have a big straightaway where the drafting is so important. Because anywhere you get into the 170 and up range, you have drafting, which makes a huge difference. So if you're up there in the 190s, it's a pretty big hole the guys are punching. So if you have, a team of 4 going down the straightaway, the 4th guy is getting a gigantic hole in the wind. So that motorcycle just makes a runner by itself. So it's really easy to make up time before you get back in the corners again. So if the riders are all similar caliber and they're all on the exact same tires, so you kind of, put it all together, it's going to be pretty close racing. Yeah.
Okay, and then let's see if there's any more on the YouTube right now. Okay, so Joseph Novella wants to know if you're open to expanding into a 600 Supersport class team.
Yeah, I think we talked about that last time.
Yeah.
And it really depends on what Yamaha is going to do. I think it's possible we have another semi here. So if they want to expand out, we can always do it. But, it's all about budgets.
Right.
How much is it worth it for them and how much is it worth it for us? And can the rider win?
Right. Okay. And then Paul McMullen, actually, he commented on one of our previous videos, but I figured I'd bring it up because he commented after the fact. So he wants to know if it's possible, he'd like to hear what the difference between Cam's bike and a World Superbike R1 is, like Garrett's or the factory R1. And then how about an Attack World Superbike team?
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. The team part, we're contracted to do the U.S., and so we're going to keep doing that until Yamaha says you're fired, and then we'll think about that. And at that point, who knows? May not be Yamaha, but I like the Yamaha product. It works really well, and obviously it's fast. For an odd fire, it carries some good speed. I thought the Screamers would always be faster, but on top speed. But our bike has really good top speed. And so the difference is between our bike and World Superbike is we actually have more open RPM. So our bike can actually be a little bit faster than a World Superbike if we put our head down and develop it. But the World Superbike has an optional gearbox ratio too. So the World Superbike team, I think they're stuck at 14.9 maybe. I think that's their limit. Or was it 15,000? I think last year was 15,000. So we're really always trying to be really careful we didn't go over it. And they have a little logger they put on the bike, and they'll come and download it every single session to see how many times. They have a certain percentage you can go over, like a rider back shifts too hard and gets a RPM to go over. They don't count that. But if a guy does, he'll run it a little too hard first gear, and then the inertia of the bike kind of pulls the RPM a little too high, and it bounces over. You get a certain percentage over, and then they'll penalize you. A certain amount of time over. So it's a pretty tricky little device, 2D deal that looks at throttle opening and RPM and decides, okay, were you on the throttle when you did that over rep, or were you back shifting? The back shift ones don't count. And so anyway, that's the way they kind of try to do the parity of the bikes, and so on. So that's about the only difference. But Yeah, the way the rules are, I mean, it's pretty cool. We can take our bike, put it in a crate, and go to World Superbike, put a logger on it, change the RPM limit, make sure we don't go over, and we're good to go.
That's really the only difference. I mean,
yeah, and the transmission.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, so the gearbox. Other than that, we have the exact same rules, which is we have the same electronics. I think there might be one generation ahead on the software. So that's about it. But we're doing a pretty decent job with the software we have. I don't know. I hear that their software might be a little more throttle based for the anti-wheelie, where ours is more cut and retard type based.
Right.
So little simple stuff, but our bike works really well. So it would be pretty easy for us with a good rider to go to that series.
So you recently had a alien removed from your neck?
Yeah, I gave it to Chiquetto for
You put ketchup on it and eat it?
Oh yeah, this thing here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the swelling's starting to go down. But yeah, I think when they cut it open, like a gas came out and everyone in the operating room fell over.
Dude.
And I woke up mid operation going, hey, where'd everybody go? No, yeah, they just took that thing out. I guess it's all cool, whatever. I'll live to fight another day. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I mean, you look healthy. I mean, you don't have that extra head sticking out anymore, so that's cool.
Yeah, Sigourney Weaver, she started like chasing everyone around with a machine gun and killing the alien. Thing popped out of my neck, went crazy, killed everyone.
Man. That's awful. And then Nate Loyal, he's like my cycling coach friend, super into the sport. He says that we should talk more about bicycles.
Yeah, shut up, Nate. Shut up, Nate. This is about motorcycles.
Yeah, shut up, Nate. Okay, so I guess before we wrap this up, you want to talk about what's going on?
With what?
Out at Buttonwillow Raceway?
Oh yeah, no, yeah. I heard you had. I heard there might be a new track and a new series we can go test at. Is that rumor true?
Yes, it is. Buttonwillow Raceway is building a new racetrack right now. They've got heavy equipment Monday through Friday, pushing massive amounts of dirt around. And you want to see what it looks like?
Yeah, I heard it's gonna have a big straightaway, which I'm really digging that.
It's got a couple of pretty fast straightaways, but it's a smaller track. It's 2.5 miles, I think. You want to take a look?
Yeah, absolutely.
Map? Okay. So stand by. Let me share my screen here, and let me find. Oh, there it is. Okay. Are you seeing that?
Oh yeah, boom.
Yeah. So. This road up here at the top, that's Lurdo Highway. And then this road here is the road that you use to get into the track.
Yeah.
Yes. And so somewhere around here is where that guy is that makes you sign the waivers and all of that.
Yeah, no, I can see the old track. I mean, the other track there with the motorcycle turn there.
Yeah, the Star Mazda.
That's a car turn. That's the big sweeper is a motorcycle turn there. Yeah.
Yes. And this S is right here. Yes.
Yeah.
So this is the track. And if you're wondering what the GKR thing is in the middle, this is part of how Les was able to convince them to let him build. He built a habitat for this giant kangaroo rat.
Kangaroo rat?
Yes.
Better known as a cat.
I'm not even kidding you. Like, I don't know if this thing actually exists there, but supposedly they have to. So I've driven around this layout many times since he started pushing dirt around, and it's really funny because as more and more equipment moves more and more dirt, this area is still weeds and still untouched.
Of course, because the habitat.
Yes. So if you look at this layout, if you're wondering who designed it, Les quite colorfully told me that the rat designed it because like I guess he couldn't make turns a certain way because of that. And so the course direction is also dictated by the GKR.
Yeah, it looks like it goes counterclockwise.
It goes clockwise, actually.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
So Yeah, so this would be, you know, the exit the racetrack.
Pit out, yeah. And
Yep.
pit in, I mean.
And
That's
pit
pit
entry
out.
over here. So, and there's some elevation, you know, I stood in this area here.
Yeah.
The bottom left corner, and
tight there.
dude, it's like 2 stories high.
It looks tight though.
Oh, it is. So you go into this corner and it's a banked left-hander, and then you go up this hill, and it's a pretty slow seeming corner, but it's pretty fast straightaway after.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking we're gonna be wheeling off of that somewhere.
Oh yeah, for sure. Looks like
you know me, that's what I'm concerned with, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, yep, you know, driving around with my partners with the new thing, we're sitting there talking about it, and I was like, yep, we're gonna wheelie here, we're gonna wheelie over there, you know, that's priorities. So, but this straightaway here looks pretty significant, as does this one. And these little short straightaways, I mean, this doesn't look very far, but it's pretty far, man.
Yeah. Looks cool.
Yeah,
like
I mean,
three decent straightaways.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, so I think it's pretty exciting, you know, and so this is actually something that it's an opportunity that came from having this racetrack coming to exist. We're gonna be. I'm involved in starting a new race series out here, a club race series. So it's the California Road Race Association, CRA, and I've got a couple of partners, and we're gonna roll with it. Super rider centric club, and I think it's exciting.
Yeah, that's. I mean, it's a pretty good location too, because you're just north of LA area.
Right.
And not too far south of the guys in the NorCal area.
Right.
So that'd be pretty neat. You know, we tested Buttonwillow quite a bit in the winter, so it'd be nice to have another track we could test at. That might open up some more test time for us as well, and a little different configuration.
Yeah. I mean, I told Les that the customer base is like San Luis Obispo to Long Beach.
Yeah, no, I think you can go more than that. I mean, anything within a half day's drive, I think people will go to.
Yeah, I think so, man. I think so. So I mean, I don't want to get into too specific with how many rounds we're doing or anything like that, or when the series starts. But it's happening, and I'm sure there'll be some kind of press release or whatever sent around. When you'll know it's real, I guess, when Road Racing World posts it, right?
Yeah, the rule is going to be how?
I mean, the rules are going to be.
How many classes? No.
I mean, there's all the core classes that you would think, right?
Superbike, super stock, super sport, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So, you know, super sport and super bike of everything, right? And then, yeah.
That sounds pretty cool. Maybe we got to get involved.
Yeah, it's cool, man. It's kind of a dream come true for me too, because I actually originally pitched this idea to Les Phillips from Buttonwillow 18 years ago.
Wow.
So, you know, and back then I was.
It means you're a terrible salesman. It took you 18 years to.
Well, no, he couldn't do it back then because he didn't have a second racetrack, and he would have had to pull dates from existing customers to make it happen.
Yeah.
And truthfully, you know, I was still in my early 20s, and I barely figured out how to do this track day thing back then. So.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, now I've already helped start another club, you know, 10 years ago or whatever. So it's something I've already kind of done, and yeah. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's exciting. I think it's good for the sport too. You know, I mean, one more place to feed riders into the maybe turn pro eventually or not. You know, just feed the sport.
Yeah, absolutely.
More people buying motorcycles and burning up race fuel and tires and buying parts and all of that. So, and the thing is, like, when you make a racer, there's all these racers out there that don't even know they're racers yet. That's where we.
Yeah, I mean, like Cameron, he started off at some local tracks, right, and then went and did the Rookies Cup thing in Europe, and came back here and got some rides and, rode for the factory for the last 8 years and won 6 championships.
Yeah.
And if he gets the opportunity to go to Europe, that's another guy in the European World Championship.
Exactly.
That'd be what, 3 Americans, Garrett's doing pretty decent. Looks like Joe Roberts is doing pretty good. If Cameron hops in there and he starts doing pretty good, I mean, the U.S. could have a little resurgence of dominance in the world. I mean, that hasn't been since Ben Spies, right?
Right.
So we need.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, I remember Cameron when he was a little guy,
Oh yeah, me too.
And his dad was over on the wall, and he's out there on a 125, and every single person in the A group at that track day was like, "Who the hell is this kid on the 125?" I think he was like 13 or something. I think it was right before the insurance thing switched, and he had to be 14.
Oh right.
So
yeah,
he was like,
something popped in my head too. You watch the races, right? And did you see that the Ducati just couldn't get off the line very good? The one they brought from Europe, along with their
starts.
Yeah,
I did.
I started wondering why, Kyle's bike could get off the line really well and that bike couldn't. And I'm thinking to myself, what's the chances those guys just pushed their World Superbike test bike into a crate and shipped it without changing the transmission?
Wow. I don't know. Perhaps.
No, I think that, I don't want to ruin their day by protesting anything, but I think that by the time they get to Laguna, they should probably get the right stuff in there.
Okay.
I think it'd be really wise to have a legal motorcycle for Laguna Seca.
What's your plan? What's your plan for Laguna Seca? I mean,
we're going to smash everyone. What do you think my plan is?
Right. I mean, Cameron looked like he took a shot to the confidence a little bit at Indy, and
no, not at all.
No,
he was. I mean, he just really wanted to wrap up the championship. Laguna's a track he knows really well. Jake likes that track really well, and we'll see how Bobby. I mean, Bobby seems to be the competition there, and then the guy with a C in the A name, from Italy, might show up and give us a hard time. So I think that the track record right now is held by Josh Aaron on our bike from 2018, 22.9.
Right.
Yeah, we're going to have to eclipse that.
Well, yeah, I mean, that Cameron's definitely got something to shoot for, right? I mean, he doesn't.
Yeah, no, I think he'll be just fine at Laguna Seca. That's like a home away from home for him. And we'll just go and we'll just do our thing. And we got some good data from previous races, and we know how to go fast around there, and he does, and so we're just gonna go out and try to smash everyone. The usual story.
So how does it feel being the team boss guy, crew chief of this badass team that just won that giant #1 thing sticking behind you
over there?
Yeah, that one.
It was a little anticlimactic. It feels good, but it was kind of like, I don't know what it was like. It was inevitable. It's like going to a movie and knowing the ending, or reading a book and knowing the ending already.
Oh man.
I mean, by the time we got to Indy, we had 6 races. All we needed was to finish one, basically, at a win, or finish a couple with not wins to win the championship. And so you go there and you're like, just have to finish.
Yeah.
And win the championship. So it wasn't like the very first championship we won, when we won on a tiebreaker, and it went down the last possible race, and that was with Pridmore in 2002, I think, the Formula Extreme Championship, and we ended up winning on a tiebreaker. And so that one was pretty exciting because we were actually 3rd in the points when we went into it, and just the weekend worked out for us, and we won the championship. And but this one, we knew we had all of Indy and all of Laguna to get it done. Yeah. But the one I kind of cared about was the one with Jake, because he's in second. And he was only 1 point up from Matt. So I thought that was going to be a barn burner all the way to the end until Matt got hurt.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, Jake's now got a 30-point advantage. So going to Laguna, he just has to score some good points there, and not give up too much. And we finished second. So that poster there could turn into a 1-2 in the championship, which is pretty cool.
Okay, so I've already started getting people asking me who the rider is, and I I got a name from somebody.
Well, you can't say because I promised.
I'm not gonna say the name,
huh?
but yeah, that name you're probably thinking of is probably the person. I'm just gonna leave it at that. Yeah, it's that dude.
I don't know. I don't know anything.
What's the deal with the bike over your shoulder there, like the naked bike?
Oh yeah, that's Jake's bike. Just getting a fresh engine for Laguna.
Okay.
To make sure his is ripping. Last time Cameron got a fresh engine for Indy, and Jake's was one more race left in it, and then he's gonna get a fresh one to finish off the last 3 rounds, and then I think it'll be good for a few tests as well after the season's up. Yeah, so we'll just freshen it up, go through it. I mean, he fell down at the end, so we take it all apart. Somebody crashes, we take it all apart and go through it, make sure nothing's bad in it, including the IMU now.
Right. So in the off season, are you gonna take one of those things out and go ride it?
I thought you were.
I've been begging you to ride one of those things forever.
I'll just have to put some generic bodywork on it.
Oh,
I'll put your bodywork on it.
You already put my bodywork on your bikes.
Yeah, pretty much. We ran out.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah. No. We'd like to do a track day sometime. I probably need to organize it. I remember one time when we were the Kawasaki team, we went out and did a track day. I think it was one of your track days.
It was.
Yeah, and that was at Streets of Willow. And we brought the semi out, and we brought out like 8 motorcycles, and
yes,
and the crew. I had my Formula Extreme bike, and I was running around with that thing, and then we had a couple guys riding the super sport bikes, and they fell over and bent up some stuff, and they put dirt on the racetrack, and they rode backwards and did all this, picked it up, and you had all these rules like you can't pick up your motorcycle, and you can't get back on the track after you fall down, and you can't do this, and you can't do that. Man, your shit was more strict than MotoAmerica.
You know what? I mean, we want to keep noobs safe, and I mean, you guys are out there and you guys are all professionals and you expect certain
sort of.
But at a track day, people are there's a mix of skill levels and all kinds of stuff that you see, right? So we do have something after the season's over. We have something in December. 2 groups, 30-minute sessions. Low numbers of people. Might be something.
Are they advanced group type people?
Yeah, I have an A group and B group. That's it.
Okay, that sounds fun.
And there's only
I do an A group thing. Last time people per group. I mean, no knock on people learning how to ride, but man, it was pretty sketchy.
Yeah, I remember Heron out there trying to get some.
No, I'm talking about me at Chuck Walla when I was out there with you guys. That was a bunch of years ago, but I think I went out the B group. I passed on the wrong side because I got confused. You can't pass on the inside. You got passed.
Oh, you were not in the C group. Now you're making it.
No, B group. I was in the B group, and these guys were going so slow. I was like scaring me. I kept passing them, and
you had no business sandbagging in the B group.
No, I know. I did like 3 laps in B group. I go, that's scary. Let's go to A group. I hadn't ridden for like 5 years.
What, did you think you forgot how to ride in 5 years?
No, you don't forget. You just maybe don't want to take any chances, I just thought I'd warm up, and then I realized that I probably don't need to warm up.
No, just go and go find your marks again. That's
that's it. I got to relearn how to ride these motorcycles though, because obviously my riding style doesn't fit either.
Yeah, you ride with that kind of old school looking thing. Who was that you were talking about?
Oh, Hayes?
Yeah.
His riding style is better than mine, way better.
Norik Abe.
Yeah, I got the twisted body on top of the gas tank thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, who else rode like that? Rode like
Troy Bayliss.
Yeah, it's kind of Troy Bayliss looking thing.
McDowan.
No, McDowan. Yeah, same retarded riding style. That's me. Those are the guys I grew up with for the most part.
Wow. That's funny, man.
You only won how many world championships?
Oh, they won a lot, actually. I just threw those names out actually because I'll be honest, Cammie Crow had a discussion. I guess it was sort of viewed as taking a shot at one of the schools, but it really wasn't a shot at the schools. It was a shot at the unsolicited advice guy. So there's, and I don't know if you understand what that means, but the
I
unsolicited
understand.
advice.
Yeah, I understand. You
Yes,
should do this. I didn't ask you. Yes.
exactly. Like,
Yeah.
hey, you should do this when, and the guy's like, who the hell are you? Right. So, but yeah, so Camming, he shared a picture of Mick Doohan. He was like, oh yeah, this guy's riding body position's horrible. Somebody should tell him. But he a big number one plate on a 500 GP bike.
Yeah. Well, that was, like I said, different days, different lean angle, different tire construction.
Oh yeah.
Stuff's getting so good. Even these US Dunlops. I mean, it's just crazy. And yeah, so I think for sure at that track, I think we kind of started exceeding the limits of the tires.
Yeah, you
As
said
far as lean angle goes.
rolling off the edge of the tire. That's crazy.
I mean, the lean angle sensor doesn't lie, but obviously it did lie for one race, but
Yeah.
for most of it, it was pretty damn good. And compared to other tracks, like, wow, we really got this thing leaned over. Like when Cam fell down on the front, it looked like he just tipped over a couple millimeters before the thing was skidding across. Like, it didn't look like a normal low side. It looked like, I thought he cased it, but he was on the flat part of the track and it just lost the front and just went right to the engine case. It took literally a millisecond. There was no, he couldn't have saved that. No way. Most of the time you start losing the front and you're able to kind of push down with it. But yeah, for sure. I think if he works on the style, he'll improve it better again.
Right.
Yeah. But hard to knock someone's that successful, How are you going to tell them? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think he'll, if those rumors are indeed true, I think he'll be competitive. I mean,
Yeah.
he's that dude that he just wants to win, right?
Yeah. One thing that's amazing about him is you give him a totally screwed up motorcycle like that, and within 4 or 5 laps, he learns how to ride it, and he's riding with the fastest guys on the racetrack. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
so I think that's something that he's really good at, and I think that's going to work well for him in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. So David Price, he's commenting on somewhere I had shared that we're talking tonight. And he was asking about the rumors at Buttonwillow and stuff. And I was like, tune in tonight. And now he's like, oh my God, I can't believe it. So
another race series. That's awesome.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I have a track day tentative on the new track prior to the start of the season. We're gonna do a 3-day weekend.
Wow.
So on the new track. So I think
that'd be fun. That'd be fun to bring out our motorcycles and do this little track day that we were talking about just now. Run the Superbikes around a bit.
Yeah, so I have a track day next year scheduled on the new surface. I think we're going to be the first motorbikes on the new track. So that's always super exciting. I love riding new pavement. Like that's
just going to destroy tires.
Pirelli gives us free tires, like right? Whatever.
Is it January?
No. They're still, dude. They're
February?
Still pushing massive amounts of dirt around. So I'm thinking probably the track won't be done probably till the end of the first quarter.
Oh, really? March?
Yeah.
We'll already be in the race season.
It's fine.
Depends on COVID.
Yeah. Right?
The C word, COVID.
Yeah. Yeah, but, I guess I was told that we're not going to be the first racing to happen on the new track because the people that own the track want to race on it first. So
makes sense.
Yeah, they're it's their sandbox, right?
Yeah, it's their toys. They get to play with it first, make sure it works.
Yeah, exactly. I'm totally fine with that. So once that happens, I'm sure we'll have a schedule out pretty soon, at least tentatively. I mean, you never can tell with construction, right? Like something could go wrong or permit changes or something. So, pending none of that happening and going wrong, I think we're going to be good. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. It's, man, I never thought it would actually happen, considering 18 years. Right. But yeah, it's happening.
I'm sure you're really excited.
Yes. Yeah. It's going to be good. And, we'll run that bike that's sitting at your shop, as soon as we get some body work and stuff for it.
I'm just curious to see what kind of slave driver you're going to be with attendees. If you're going to be like a typical race director.
I'm not a race director, man.
No.
No, dude. No. The race director actually, it's a guy you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Curtis Adams.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be cool. So you're pulling from the laundry list of people we know.
Well, the laundry list of people that I know, yes. Curtis Adams was sort of, when I first started racing, he was sort of my race dad. You know, like I pitted with him, and, you know, he's this super fast guy, and I'm a brand new novice guy. And, you know, basically I listened to everything that guy said, like it was the gospel back then. And, you know, he had some pretty good ideas, and he had a lot of success. And the dude, he's old, and he's still fast.
Oh,
I don't know how old he is exactly, but he's
he's got to be late 50s.
Yeah, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have like a Formula 50 class?
I don't think so. I think we're gonna do the standard 40 thing, but I mean,
that's a new 30.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Maybe. I mean, look,
Formula 50, I might race it.
The thing is about doing something new is that you have the opportunity to shake things up a bit and, you know, not do things the exact same way as everyone else is doing it. So, you know, we have some ideas and some pretty big ideas actually that are really cool. We got these guys. I think you've actually seen these guys. Some of them, they've been coming out to the track days for the last few years on Harleys. You know, the Dyna dudes.
Mm-hmm.
So we're
baggers.
No, not baggers. Like these guys are. I don't even want to describe what these guys got going on. This is not like the Ford Control cruiser thing. So, like the American Iron class, we actually let the rider representative from that class kind of write the rules for that, and it's pretty cool. I think there's a heavyweight one for like the big monster ones that those guys are riding, and then there's another one for like the Indian FTR and the Sportster thing. So I don't know. Like I that's not what I'm riding, but if those guys want to come out and go racing,
yeah, I'm not into it.
Yeah.
If it's not high technology, I'm really not into it.
Right. Yeah, but it's kind of cool to see, you know, new people that, you know, want to join the sport somehow, and, you know, they've kind of modified their bikes to make it so it'll actually kind of work. And I say kind of work. That sounds so condescending, right?
Yeah.
But a couple of those guys are ripping. I mean, those guys, you know, they're right around 2 minutes at Buttonwillow on those monster things with the ape hangers and stuff.
Oh, that's not bad. 2 minutes.
Yeah, dude.
The lap times there, what, 40s or 50s?
Yeah, I think Cameron went 40 flat or something the last test.
Maybe. I don't know.
But yeah, I mean, so
Buttonwillow or Chuck Wall? Buttonwillow.
Buttonwillow, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was low 40s.
Yeah, I think it was a 40.
Yeah, so I'd say if you're going, you know, 10 seconds, within 10, 15 seconds of that, it's probably doing pretty
well,
decent.
2 minutes. I mean, 2 minutes on Config 13 is pretty good for like a kind of an amateur racer, even, you know.
Right.
I mean, I've seen dudes on 600s that can't go 2 minutes.
Really?
These guys are on the ape hangers, like full on, you know. So it could be interesting.
You're losing me on this one, man.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to ride an R1. So, I mean, duh. But it's still kind of cool. I don't know.
Yeah, what's cool was these R1s screaming down that straightaway at Indy.
Yeah, they had a unique sound on TV.
Yeah, it sounded really cool.
The Ducati too. I mean, honestly, the Ducati sounded pretty cool too.
Shifting from first to sixth with that little tight gearbox. I mean, that standard gearbox.
Like you never pull a punch, and it's so awesome. I love it. It's hilarious.
Hey man, people make mistakes, even big teams like that, you know. I mean, there's a lot of telltale signs, like bad launch and watching it not shift out of first in a bunch of spots, but it could be the RPM that thing has too. It's like 16,000 RPMs or something crazy, you know. So it carries some good RPM in that thing. So it's got some advantages, but I just say if you're going to come play with us, play by our rules, then you should have all the same stuff. You know, I jokingly asked because we tore down our engines or one of the engines at the track to do inspection, because they want to count ratios and look at pistons and rods and make sure we're all legit. And so we had Cameron's engine sealed from Barber, so we decided to tear it down over there so we can rebuild it when we got back. And so they, you know, we got in there and started counting gears and all that stuff. I said, no, so you guys go ahead and do this to the Ducati. And the tech guy kind of looked down at the ground and looked around. It's like, that's above my pay grade.
Right.
Yeah. So I think, you know, honestly, they're just trying to make sure that people come to the series and are willing to join the series and have a good time.
Right.
For me, come and join the series. That's great. Just bring legal stuff.
Well, you know, I mean,
especially you know, for a top flight team like that, where they bring in the mechanic that actually assembles the bikes for Ducati Corsa, and they bring in a race engineer that apparently worked with Redding or whoever, you know, and so it's not exactly like a bunch of guys put together Ducati and showed up. You know, that was a professional effort with real stuff.
right.
And so if you're going to do that, you might as well make sure that everything's legit. And it could have been, I have no idea. It could have been. But to me, from the outside looking in, it's worth a look just to make sure they are.
So, you know, going back to that too, I mean, there was, you know, the Superbike Unlimited guys, they brought their bike back out to Indy. Yeah. And man, it just seemed like they were, I don't know what was going on, but it seemed like they were on the struggle bus the whole time.
You know, it happens that way sometimes, you know. I wouldn't say we were having a great time either. You know, so sometimes it happens that way. You come out with what you think is going to work out great, and you have no information. Like they probably had no information on Indy. I don't know if what's the rider's name again? Andrew Lee. Yeah, I don't know if he ever even raced Indy. You know, where on the Superbike side, I think just about the top 6 guys. I mean, Heron, Matt. I mean, all those guys. Bobby. I think they all actually raced there at some point or another. You know, Matt was there on some little bike when he was doing the Rookies Cup or whatever. Same with and so everyone had a look around at that place, even though it felt new again. And so yeah, so I don't know what their situation was, but yeah, they probably struggled a bit. They really didn't have a lot of time. We're building motorcycles from scratch. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Instead of looking at your laptop trying to figure out how to make the thing faster, you're just trying to figure out what else was wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. Which parts do we need?
Yeah.
Yep.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, look, man, I think we're getting kind of close to a couple hours in here.
Wow. I'm nodding off.
Right.
All right, then.
All right. Well, I guess I'll see you at the shop Friday.
Yeah, and then we'll talk about Laguna when Laguna ends, and I'll let you know what the heck we did there.
Yeah, and I'll bring you that fancy exhaust system that Yusaku Yoshimura gave me.
Oh yeah, I gotta supply you with a pan for that thing, huh?
Yes. Well, Chucketto said that he's gonna give some pans back.
Yeah, we loaned him our pans from last couple of years, you know, so he didn't have to buy any kit pans. But I gotta end up. One of our bikes is going to Estenson. He's going for a collector piece, the one that JD rode. So I need a pan for that because I loaned it to Chucketto. And then, you know, maybe you need one. And then I have a couple other things that we want to get rid of. So,
okay.
Yeah. So we have to do that.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chuck.
It's a sweet looking pipe, man. I don't know. Like, I guess, does it make more power because it's routed that way? Like,
no, the pan is generally for making the oil stay in one area. a deep sump pan for hard acceleration and hard deceleration. So you don't end up uncovering the sump and ruining your engine.
Okay.
You know, and you're able to run less oil down low and away from the crankshaft and all the spinning pieces. So in essence, yes, it does probably make more top speed power because the windage and everything is away from the crankshaft. But is it going to make you break track records at a club race? Probably not.
It's me, dude. Like,
Yeah. You'll be like, hey, there's oil in the engine. Cool.
I'm like, right.
Ride
This is
it.
a cool looking oil pan.
Yeah, that's right.
Right on.
All right, man.
All right, Richard. I'll see you at the shop Friday.
Okay.